going to be doing something a little bit different, as I'm sure you have figured out by the title and thumbnail. We're going to revive this old girl here. It's 98 Transit. Sorry, Camaro. Been sitting for a little while, like 5 years or so. I found out who raindrops. Okay, never mind. So we're going to run through it, do some of the main basic things that you want to do when you're reviving an older car that's been sitting for a while. So spark plugs, wires, thermostat, coolant. We've got a lot of other parts that we're going to be throwing on this thing as well, so stay tuned for that. We're going to go through everything. But right now, let's get started. So for ignition, we went with the NGK Iridiums. They're really good for both standard and performance driving. Gives you a very, very nice cold spark. NGK makes some of the best spark plugs. Always put them on your performance cars. Yeah! And for the thermostat, we're going with just your standard motor rad radiator, 165 degree temperature on this one. And this will get us right back into OE spec, keep the engine cooling where it should be. And then standard AC Delco spark plug wires, you always want to go with your GMs, your original equipment supplier, unless you're doing like a super high performance build, then you can upgrade your ignition wires accordingly. We're going to get started on the passenger side first, just a little bit more room. You will see when you go to do this job that there's quite a lot of things in the way. You have your fuel lines, you got the air pump here. Basically just kind of work around it as best as you can, because there's not really much movement in either of these two things. They're pretty hard mounted. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to start at the hardest one in the back and work our way forward. That way it gets easier as we work instead of getting harder as we work. So without any further ado, let's get to work. It crumbles.
They were ordered and then parked and...
Alright, so I got on this one. It's already loose. Not good. But also good. Right now it's good because we're taking it out.
I'll leave it because they're stupid like that.
Yeah?
Yeah,
here's our plug.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, dude. He's
not focusing, but it's pretty bad. So here we've got old plug, new plug. You can see the old plug's covered in grime and oil, and you can see the burn wasn't as even all the way around as it should be. And the new plug. So if you ever check your spark plugs and they look kind of burnt up and oily like this, go ahead and change them. This car may also need valve cover gaskets, going by how the base of the plug looks, all that oil and grime down there. So we may have to revisit that at some point too.
Honestly, you're absolutely right.
Spark plug number 2 that we took out. You see this one just says burnt up. It's got some white on it, so it's been getting really hot. So it's definitely time for a new plug. So I just fought with this last number 1 spark plug for like ages. As you can see, the wire is still stuck on there, dry rotted and melted. This plug, I took it out with my bare hands, which means the person that did the work did not tighten any of these plugs down. They're all hand tight. Terrible. Terrible. So we're moving on to the driver's side. Sorry, passenger side. We had a little mishap where the coolant temp sensor on the driver's side decided to snap off when I was putting it back in. I turned it twice. So we gotta figure that out. But first, we're gonna go ahead and complete the spark plugs on this side, and then we'll move on to that over there. That doesn't make any sense.
6.5 hours later.
This one was a pain in the ass. It was the third from the back. Really on there. I had to put a lot of effort just to get this thing off. I'm like, it's making me like just want to drop the engine out. Anyway, the one on the very back, may have to pop the header off to get to it, and we're gonna try to get to the other 2 up front, and then we'll assess that last one when that time comes.
A few inches later.
So I finally got it out.
No hands.
And again, hand freaking tight. I twisted it off with my fingers after fighting with this wire you see broke. Not a good job. I just took out that one plug by hand. There's one more back here. Also, by hand. And you saw I had the camera going this whole time. Well, until now.
It's the thought that counts.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? Let me just try this next one to see if it's also hand tight. Sure enough, it's hand tight. I know some people are gonna be like, no, it's not. You loosen it up by hand for the video. Bro, I have no reason to fake content. This car's been sitting. As you can see, it's covered in cobwebs and bees and spiders and shit.
Fake news.
Right? Ow! By hand, again. They're all hand tight at this point. There's 2 left, and they gotta be hand tight also.
These mechanics are just being considerate, making your job less tool demanding.
Yeah. They're like, well, we'll just make it easy on the next guy. At this point, the hardest part is taking out these wires. Oh, well, what do you know? It came off like it's supposed to. Is this gonna be the one that's actually tight?
It's never been off since you got the engine.
Nope.
Not even.
Again, why are these all by hand? It's madness. And also all white and burnt up. Misfiring. Bugs. 7 spark plugs out of this thing. Every single one of them barely even hand tight. So now I'm on to this last one, the back one, all the way back here. Gotta get that wire off, and then we'll check to see if this one's also hand tight. Absolutely insane. Whoever did the work on this didn't really do the work. So that's why we're here today. Anyway, let's get it done. This one is the hardest one to get. Not really any good way. I tried going from underneath.
2,000 years later.
That last spark plug is being a royal pain in the ass. Probably gonna have to drop the header to get to it. We're gonna do headers anyway, so may just wait to go ahead and do the headers to get to that last spark plug. Went ahead and reinstalled all the new ones on that side. So currently it's got 90% of the spark plugs replaced and about 50% of the wires replaced. Coolant temp sensor did break when I was going to put it back in, so we'll have to revisit that on the driver's side head. May or may not have to rethread it, hopefully not, we'll see. Try to extract it and go from there. Passenger side, so it's that rear spark plug, thermostat, and then we'll do headers and then full suspension, and this thing should be up and running, feeling like a brand new car once we're all said and done.
Day 2.
So it's New Year's Day, fast forwarded. This is like in the future. Finally got that rear spark plug off. It broke in half and I had to do the old reach around, if you know what I mean. With a blade in my hand, no less, right here. And very, very meticulously, this is after getting a spider egg sac or something of the like stuck in my eye for like an hour. Because I tried to go from underneath and that didn't work. So I did a little reach around and managed to cut the spark plug boot in half. Blind, kind of like this. It was bad. Now we got the spark plug out, time to put them back in, put the wires back in and fire it up. Plugs are in, wires are in, put everything back together that I could remember that I removed. So if there's a noise, there's moved something else, but there should be noises. So we're gonna crank her up for the first time and see what happens. Hopefully it's good. Oh man, that purr. It hasn't ran that smooth. That purr. It's not losing compression and spark at the same time. So it's running really smooth. The fans are coming on right now because the coolant temp sensor is not plugged in. So it's just throwing on the fans as a failsafe to keep the engine cool. But it's idling super smooth. So let's give it some gas. That's good. That's running good. So that's a good sign. Now we can move on to everything else.